Hi there, I'm going to show you my TRX. There's a few people asked how I've done the suspension mods on it, and as you can see I've done a few other things to it as well. But as I got it from Traxxas, it was an extremely good truck, but it needed a few tweaks just to get it to go over what I wanted it to go over down the nature reserve. As you can probably see off my other videos, there's some big roots and stuff, and some trees that it was struggling to get over. So I decided to give it a bit more flex. So the first thing I did to this was move the shocks. So from their standard position of there, I've moved them down to there on the back, which from memory is an existing hole on the chassis rails, and on the front again move from there down to this angle, just to get more flex on the chassis. The problem I had when I was doing it, as you can see, is to get the shocks in that angle. The actual shocks were fouling on the chassis rail, so I made this plate, this triangular plate there, put the holes in it, and as you can see just about from down the back, get that, it actually continues straight down, so it braces the top and the bottom of the chassis rail. So first of all I silver soldered or brazed those bits to the back of the chassis rail, tried it all back together and found out it fouled, so I moved the shocks further out, so they were sitting, the head of the shock was sitting more here. It didn't then fail the chassis rails, it failed the wheels. So I then had to move them back in, and decided that the best course of action was to cut the chassis out along there at a 45 degree and along the back there, and that left then a very small amount of rail just there, top and bottom. Once I'd done that, I then filled the sides here where there should have been a gap, and again here with silver solder, and then I had to sand all that down to make it smooth. And again then I had to play with where the setting had to be, and if I use either of those there is a slight catch on the chassis rail, but that hole there everything clears. So it's way off on that side, just touches down there, but not too severe on full tilt. And again with the wheels turned, it just catches. But it did as well when it came from Traxxas. There was a slight touch on the shocks, if I remember, but it doesn't affect the way it runs. So once I'd done that, the next thing I did, well, the next thing I found when I took it on the trail was the side hill ability was rubbish. It got over what I wanted it to get over, and it made it tackle the obstacles better, but it wouldn't, it had reduced its side hilling capacity, so it would roll over at a less of an angle. So the next two things I did to it were I changed the foams in the wheels and made them stiffer. I also blocked the air holes up so they're almost pressured, and that stopped a lot of sidewall compression on the side hills, and kept the truck upright a bit more. The next thing I did was drop the battery tray. So I run saddle packs 2S, so one fits down here and one fits on there. This is before I did the rock sliders on the side. So the old setup was one there and one there, and that made a massive difference. It's pretty much went back to the way it used to side hill straight out the box with the extra flex on it, so that improved it quite a bit. The next thing I then did was it kept getting snagged up on roots and twigs on the plastic sliders. It kept getting snagged here for some reason between where the slider was and where the cover was. So scrapped them off, so the speedo had to move. So I decided to move the speedo up to the top here and strap that down. And the second battery I moved to the back, which is a lot lower, and that now drops in over there. So now the centre of gravity is a lot lower than it used to be, and everything is in the centre. At the same point I moved the receiver box up onto another little bracket I'd made up here and kept that central. I made the side skirts, the side rock sliders. I thought they'd snag up, but strangely they don't. So I snag up more on the front bumper, which is something else I made for it. Again, this has all been brazed. I put a plate on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that there, and I made a winch as well, which I'm still trying to get going. Made it out of a servo, but it's getting the controls right, because there aren't enough channels to control it on the Traxxas remote, and it's trying to figure out a way of getting another receiver and stuff in there to sort that out, to make that work. What else have I done? That's pretty much it. I was asked by somebody to make some bumperettas, so I made myself a pair in the process for both sides, just to protect the back end of the truck. So again, there's steel and brazed together. And then the other thing I did, which was another big difference in the way everything controlled on the trail, was chop the back off. And I used the original roof rack as a back tray. I've used the two original cans. Again, they're all brazed onto the or connected onto the roll cage. That's all one. That roll cage is going up to there. I'm still playing around with the limb risers. I've made myself some little mounts at the front there. I'm selling them on eBay. Put a link down below. I think the cable I used is slightly too thick, so I've been told by some of you guys that guitar strings are quite useful and do the trick quite well. I'm going to give them a go. Everything needs a bit of a repaint. Bumper needs sanding down to finish it. So yeah, work in progress. And we'll see how it goes, but it's definitely improved the fun of it on the trail. The roots and the stuff, the bouncy stuff on the trails can be taken at more speed, and it reacts better to them. And then when you get crawling, it seems to go up most things you throw at it. I'm going to try and get out as it is at the moment in the next few days and put a video on of how it's going now. So thanks for watching.